Now we're back here at the virtual main stage of the IAA Mobility. Thanks for watching. The big moment has come. Everyone has eagerly waited for the big opening ceremony. And now we have her again, Chancellor Angela Merkel, who is again opening the IAA Mobility. As she has been the Chancellor of Germany for over 16 years, she had opened very many different IAAs, but only one IAA Mobility this year, 2021, in Munich. So this is a big honor having her, and the whole international press is now represented because everyone is waiting for her words. What has she to say? I mean, everyone knows that there's a huge movement in the whole industry, mobility as a future. And what is the future going to look like in the mobility industry? So here at the IAA Mobility, we're discussing all the burning questions. We have several different vehicles that shape our future. And I'm sure you're also eagerly waiting. So here in my background, I will now have the possibility to show you what's happening in the big hall where we have the mobility stage. So let's have a look. And you can see it's already pretty crowded. As I said, the international press is there waiting for her to come. It must be the 8th IAA that Angela Merkel is opening. So a big, big honor for everyone that she's also here in Munich. So you see the international press is there. Everyone is waiting. It's only about 6 minutes when she arrives and has her opening speech. So I will leave you enjoying those last 6 moments and that you can observe what's happening there on the mobility stage. It's a huge stage and a big happening. So we will see each other after the big opening ceremony.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, bitte nehmen Sie nun Ihre Plätze ein.
car was invented in Germany, and the bicycle, and the computer, and the electric motor. And now, we're bringing all this together to reinvent mobility. IAA Mobility presents Mobility of the Future. With electric vehicles, with sustainable biofuels, with hydrogen, with bikes, with e-scooters, with public transport. With self-driving cars that find their own way to a parking space. With innovations in every area, all digital and connected. Making mobility simpler, better and climate neutral. That's our mission. IAA Mobility is the biggest mobility event in the world. The biggest mobility event for the world. Making mobility climate neutral by 2050, latest. That's our promise. And the IAA Mobility is the place for us to start that journey. Welcome to Munich. Welcome to IAA Mobility.
Meine Damen und Herren, begrüßen Sie die Gastgeber der IAA Mobility. Die Präsidentin des Verbandes der Automobilindustrie, Hildegard Müller. Und den Vorsitzenden der Geschäftsführung der Messe München, Klaus Dittrich.
Sehr geehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin, liebe Angela Merkel, sehr geehrte Herren Ministerpräsidenten, lieber Markus Söder, lieber Winfried Kretschmann, sehr geehrter Herr Bundesminister, lieber Andreas Scheuer, sehr geehrter Herr Oberbürgermeister, lieber Herr Reiter, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren Minister, Exzellenzen, liebe Mitglieder des VDA-Vorstandes, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, lieber Herr Dittrich, zur neuen IAA Mobility in München begrüße ich Sie alle sehr herzlich hier im Saal und an den Bildschirmen. Ladies and gentlemen, to all our international guests and partners from abroad, I would like to express a warm welcome as well. We are very pleased to have you here in Munich for the first time. Mit der IAA Mobility
With the IAA Mobility and its new concept,
haben wir einen Raum
we have
geschaffen, in
created
dem
a
Mobilität
space
ganzheitlich
that allows
gezeigt
for a
und diskutiert
comprehensive approach for displaying and discussing
Welche
mobility.
Mobilitätskonzepte sichern
Which
auch
mobility
künftig
concepts will
die soziale
secure
Teilhabe
social
aller
participation of all people in the
Welche
future?
Weichen müssen
Which
gestellt werden,
decisions have to be made
damit
for
Mobilität
mobility
auch
to
künftig
continue
Wachstum,
to grant
Wohlstand und
prosperity,
Beschäftigung schafft
employment and
und
growth
gleichzeitig auf den
while
Klimawandel
addressing climate
reagiert?
change?
Wie sieht die Mobilität von
What
morgen
is
aus?
the mobility of
Städten
tomorrow going to
und
look
auf
like
dem Land?
in urban and rural
Welche
environments?
Chancen liegen in der Digitalisierung
What are the
für
opportunities
unsere
that
Branche?
digitization will bring to our
Auf
industry?
diese und viele
These
weitere
and many other
Fragen werden Sie hier
questions
in
will be
München
answered
Antworten
here
erhalten.
in Munich.
Mobilität ist ein
Mobility
zentrales
is a
Thema für
major
unsere
issue
Gesellschaft.
for society
Deutschland,
in Germany,
Europa
in Europe,
und weltweit.
all over the world.
Deshalb müssen wir heute
That is
darüber
why we need to
diskutieren,
discuss the
welche
solutions
Lösungen wir morgen brauchen.
required for tomorrow.
Die IAA Mobility,
The IAA
wird
Mobility
dazu einen
will
wichtigen
contribute
Beitrag
greatly
leisten.
to this goal.
Ich freue mich,
And
lieber
I'm
Herr Dittrich, dass
delighted,
wir diese
Mr.
IAA
Dittrich,
Mobility
that we're here
mit
at
einem
this
neuen
IAA
starken
Mobility
Partner
and
veranstalten
we're
dürfen.
having it with a strong new
Herzlichen
partner.
Dank für die hervorragende
Thank you so much for the
Zusammenarbeit an
excellent
Sie
cooperation
und das gesamte Team
with you
der
and
Messe
the
München.
entire team of Messe München.
Sehr geehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin, meine Herren Ministerpräsidenten, sehr geehrter Herr Oberbürgermeister, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen auf der Messe München. Sie glauben gar nicht, wie sehr ich mich auf diesen Satz gefreut habe. Der VDA und die Messe München sind mit der IAA Mobility gemeinsam mit Mut und sehr viel Zuversicht völlig neue Wege gegangen.
Courage and a lot
glaube, man kann heute
of
schon
positive
sagen,
thinking when we went
es
in
hat
this
sich
new
gelohnt.
direction, and we can all say now that
Erstens,
it was worth it.
Es ist allein schon
First
ein
of all,
Erfolg, dass diese
It
IAA Mobility
is already a
stattfinden
success
kann.
that this fair is happening
Nach 1,5 Jahren
after 1.5
endlich
years,
wieder mal eine große
finally,
internationale
there's a
Messe
large
in München.
international trade fair
Damit
in Munich,
sind wir auch sowas wie ein Leuchtturm für ganz
and
Europa.
that
für
makes
die
us a
Branche
beacon
geworden.
for Europe and for the
Und
industry.
dass die Messe nicht nur hier auf der Messe
The
stattfindet,
fact that the fair
sondern
is
die
not only
schönsten
happening
Plätze
here
Münchens
on these
nutzen
grounds, but it's
kann,
also happening in all over
um in
Munich,
den
in
Dialog mit
beautiful
der Bevölkerung
spaces,
zu treten,
in order to
hat
create a
es in Deutschland
dialogue
so
with
noch
the
nicht
population. This is a new concept.
Und dass
It has
die
never happened in
Aussteller
Germany before. And the
nicht nur
exhibitors
ihre neuen Modelle zeigen,
are not
sondern
only
das
showing their new
Automobil in den
models,
Kontext anderer
they're
Verkehrsmittel, wie
basically
zum Beispiel
putting
den
the
Fahrrad stellen, hat uns
car
auf
into the
Anhieb
context with other
zur
vehicles
größten
like bicycles.
Mobilitätsplattform der
This
Welt
immediately made us the largest mobility
Dafür
platform in the
möchte ich
world.
mich ganz herzlich
And
bedanken
for that, I
bei
want to
den
thank
Ausstellern,
the exhibitors.
die den Mut hatten, zu einem Zeitpunkt, wo noch
courageous.
nicht klar war, ob sie überhaupt
At a time
stattfinden
when it
kann,
wasn't sure whether
sich zu
this fair
committen für
was
diese neue IAA.
happening, they committed to
Ich
be
möchte mich
here.
bedanken bei all den
I want to
Behörden,
thank all the
die
authorities
mitgeholfen haben, in enger
that
Abstimmung
helped
mit
us in
uns
close cooperation
ein ausgeklügeltes
to create
Hygiene- und
a smart
Sicherheitskonzept zu entwickeln.
security, safety and
Ich möchte mich
hygiene
bedanken bei
concept.
der Politik,
I want to thank
die Verantwortung
policymakers
übernommen hat und uns
who
grünes
were
Licht gegeben hat. Und ich
responsible
möchte mich, Frau
and
Müller,
taken responsibility and who
bedanken
gave us the
beim
green light. And I
VDA
want
bei
to
Ihnen,
thank Ms. Müller.
dass Sie uns das
VDA.
Vertrauen gegeben
I want
haben,
to thank you
dieses
for trusting us
ambitionierte Projekt
to
in die Welt zu
make
bringen.
this
Ich
ambitious
wünsche
project happen.
allen Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmern
I
der
wish all the
ersten
participants
IAA
of
Mobility
the
in München
first IAA
ganz viel
Mobility in
Freude
Munich
und vor allem
a
viel
lot
Erfolg.
of fun and a lot of success.
Begrüßen Sie den Oberbürgermeister der Stadt
First
München,
Mayor of the City of Munich,
Dieter Reiter.
Dieter Reiter.
Keiner durcheinander kommt in der Reihenfolge.
Sehr geehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin Dr. Merkel,
Chancellor,
sehr geehrte Herren Ministerpräsidenten,
dear governors,
Ministerinnen und Minister,
ministers,
liebe Frau Müller,
dear Ms. Müller,
lieber Herr Dittrich,
Mr.
meine
Dietrich,
sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, liebe
ladies and
Gäste.
gentlemen, dear guests.
Für mich ist heute ein schöner
For
Tag.
me, it's
Ich freue
a
mich, dass ich
pleasant
als
day.
Münchner Oberbürgermeister die
I'm happy
Freude
as the
habe,
city mayor of Munich
verkünden zu
to
dürfen und auch
be able
zu
to
dokumentieren und zu
tell you
demonstrieren,
and to
dass
also
sich der Verband
demonstrate that
der Automobilindustrie für München als Standort für die IAA
VDA has
Mobility
chosen
entschieden hat.
Munich as the
Und
location
wir
for the
deswegen heute eine
IAA,
der
and therefore we
international
now have
meistbeachteten
one of
Veranstaltungen
the
derzeit
most respected
in
events
München eröffnen
all
dürfen.
over the world.
Das
here
ist
in
tatsächlich
Munich today.
ein guter Tag für München,
It is a
auch
great day for
unter
Munich.
den aktuellen Gegebenheiten
Also
ein
looking at the current situation,
Meilenstein
it is a
für
milestone
Veranstaltungen.
for events.
Was macht eine Messe wie die IAA Mobility
What
für eine Stadt wie München so besonders?
Makes the
Ja,
IAA
die
Mobility
neue
special
IAA
for a city like
Mobility
Munich.
beschäftigt
The
sich
new
mit
IAA Mobility
wahrscheinlich der
is
zentralen
covering
Frage
the
unserer
major
Zeit,
question
und
of our
insbesondere
time,
in Großstädten wie
especially in
München,
cities like
nämlich
Munich, which
wie
is
können wir auch in Zukunft
how
mobil bleiben
will we remain mobile
und
in the
dabei
future
trotzdem klimafreundlich
while
leben und
living a
unsere
climate-neutral
Lebensqualität
life
erhalten.
and retaining our life quality.
Zielführend, meine Damen und Herren, ist es, sich
It
konstruktiv
makes
und im
sense
Dialog
to
damit zu
get
beschäftigen,
into a
wie wir
discussion, a constructive
Mobilität
discussion
klimafreundlich,
about how to
nachhaltig
make
und zukunftsfähig
mobility
gestalten können.
climate-neutral,
Und genau das
sustainable and ready for the future.
IAA
And that's what
Mobility.
IAA Mobility is doing.
und im Übrigen auch der
And also
zeitgleich laufende erste Münchner
it's
Mobilitätskongress,
also the first
den wir als
Mobility
Stadt
Congress happening in Munich
anlässlich
at the
der
same
IAA
time,
Mobility
which
als
we have started
Diskussionsplattform
as a
ausrichten.
discussion panel in
Sie,
connection with
meine
the
Damen und Herren,
IAA.
als Macherinnen
You
und
as the
Macher der Messe
creators of this
haben aus meiner Sicht die
fair
Zeichen der Zeit verstanden.
have
Sie
understood
haben sich
the times,
geöffnet,
the signs of the
Sie haben
time.
ein neues,
You have
ein
opened yourself up.
anderes, ein mutiges
You
Messekonzept entwickelt
created a
und
new,
gehen
modern and
neue und
courageous
hoffentlich innovative Wege.
concept for this
Ich finde, dafür
event,
haben
and
sich
you're going
die
new
Macherinnen
ways,
und Macher der IAA
and I
Mobility
think
durchaus unseren
the
Respekt
creators of this
verdient.
fair
Und ich sage
do deserve our
für mich
respect for
persönlich
this.
als
And personally,
Oberbürgermeister der
as
Stadt
the
auch
first mayor of
mein
Munich,
herzliches Dankeschön
I
dafür.
want to thank them for making this happen.
Ich habe ja die Ehre und das meist
It is
politische
my honor
Vergnügen,
and
Oberbürgermeister
the
einer
political
wirtschaftlich
joy to
starken
be
Stadt zu sein.
the mayor of a
Einen
economically
großen Beitrag
strong
dazu
city.
leistet,
And of
gerade
course,
auch hier, wie in ganz
here,
Bayern und auch
as
in
well as in
Deutschland.
all of Bavaria and
die
Germany,
Automobilbranche.
the automotive industry plays a
Und
big
zumindest
part
hier
in
in
this.
München ist
And especially here
der
in Munich,
PKW-Bestand im Laufe
the
der letzten
number of
Jahre,
cars over the last
auch
few
wenn
years,
es manchen nicht so ganz
even though
bewusst ist in der
you
täglichen
may not have
Diskussion,
noticed it in everyday discussions,
ständig gewachsen. Wir haben
but the number of cars has grown. We now have 747,000 private cars
Ist das
registered.
Auto, oder
Therefore,
lassen Sie mich sagen, jedenfalls individuelle Mobilität
individual
für
mobility,
viele
or the
Menschen,
car,
ja fast
for
für
many
alle
people,
Menschen,
almost for all
nach wie vor
people,
offenbar wichtig
is an
und nach wie
important
vor
thing for
unverzichtbar.
most people, and they cannot give
Auch
it up
das
easily.
sind für mich gute Gründe,
Of course,
als
these are good
Oberbürgermeister sich über
reasons
den Tag
as
wie heute
the
zu
mayor
freuen
to be happy about this
und
day
diese Eröffnung der Messe gern
and
mitzumachen.
to be part
Und
of
es sind
this celebration
wichtige
today
Argumente,
of opening this
die
trade
hier
fair.
ausgetauscht
And
werden
there are points being made
bezüglich
here
der Zukunft der Mobilität in
about
unserem
the
Land
future
und
of
auch in unserer
mobility
Stadt.
in our country and our city.
Gleichzeitig
At the same
dürfen
time,
wir natürlich alle gemeinsam nicht die Augen
we
vor der
must
anderen
not
Seite der
close
Mobilität
our
verschließen.
eyes when
Wir
it comes to
erleben
the
hier in
other side of
München,
mobility.
und wir haben es auch beim Weg hierher,
We
soweit wir mit dem
live here
Auto
in
gekommen
Munich,
sind, auch
and
erleben
if you
dürfen,
came with a car,
die täglichen Herausforderungen unserer
you've noticed the
Mobilität.
challenges of mobility.
Ein steigendes Mobilitätsbedürfnis
A stronger
bringt die
need for mobility
Infrastruktur in
leads
großen Städten,
to problems
glaube
for
ich, jedenfalls
infrastructure in
derzeit
large cities.
an ihre Grenzen.
They're at their limit already.
Individuelle Mobilität
Individual mobility
konkurriert mit anderen Ansprüchen an den öffentlichen Raum.
In
Und die
competition with
inzwischen
other
deutlich
offers in the
sichtbare
public space.
Klimaveränderung
And of course, climate
fordert
change,
einfach
which we now can
Antworten, meine Damen und
clearly
Herren.
see,
All diese
is
Anforderungen
asking for
an die
answers quickly.
Mobilitätsdebatte
So all these
sind
demands in the
berechtigt
mobility
und
discussion
müssen aber auch einbezogen
make
werden in die
sense and
Diskussion.
have to be considered
Aber,
in this
und
discussion.
das stört mich an der politischen
But,
Debatte gelegentlich,
and I don't like
aber
this about the
nicht
public
immer in einem
debate,
Entweder-Oder,
there doesn't have to
sondern
be
am
an
besten in einem
either-or
Miteinander.
kind of discussion, but more
Was
of
ich
a
heute bereits bei der Eröffnung des
more of
Mobilitätskongresses
an
gesagt habe,
agreement.
gilt deshalb auch hier. Bei
So
allem
what I said
Verständnis
before
für
at the
andere
Congress also is
Positionen,
true here.
bei
I
allem
understand
Verständnis für Ungeduld
all varying
und deren
positions
Berechtigung
and
angesichts dieses
impatience,
wichtigen Themas,
and I understand
will ich
that
an die
this impatience may be
IAA-Kritiker
in the right place, but
deutlich
those
appellieren,
critics of
ihren
the IAA,
Protest und ihre
I want to
Kritik
please
friedlich
ask them
im
to
Rahmen
keep their
unserer
protest
demokratischen
peaceful
Gepflogenheiten zu
and
äußern.
within the
Das
limits
ist
of our
Grundvoraussetzung für
democratic
den demokratischen
foundation.
Dialog, meine Damen und
That
Herren.
is a prerequisite for democratic exchange.
Aber ich will auch nicht verhehlen, ich appelliere auch
But
an die
of
Industrie
course,
und
I
die Politik,
also
die hier
want to
im Raum ist.
ask the industry
zu.
and the
Hören Sie gut
policymakers,
zu, was diskutiert
do
wird.
listen. Do listen what
Die
they're
neue IAA
discussing.
Mobility
The
will
new IAA
diesem
Mobility
Anspruch gerecht werden.
wants
Sie
to
ist
live up to this
Fachmesse,
expectation.
bezieht
It's a
aber
trade
auch
fair,
eine breite Öffentlichkeit mit ein.
but it's also
Und
directed
mit den
at the
Angeboten
public.
auf dem Open Space, auf zentralen
And with the
Plätzen
open
in der
space offers
Innenstadt
in central
werden
spaces
Mobilitätsideen
in
sichtbar,
the city,
greifbar
mobility
und im wahrsten
concepts
Sinne
are
des
being
Wortes
made
auch
visible
erfahrbar.
and
Und die Messe
palpable,
stellt
and
sich kritischen
they can be
Nachfragen.
experienced firsthand.
Mit dem
And of
Citizen
course,
Lab
the
am
fair
Marienplatz im Herzen der Stadt schafft
is
eine
facing critical
Diskussionsplattform,
discussion.
auf
With the
der
Citizen Lab
lebhaft
on Marienplatz,
und auch kritisch
there can
diskutieren
be
lässt.
discussion,
Aber
critical
kritisch
discussion,
diskutieren lässt.
but
Und dabei
peaceful
darf
discussion.
jeder und darf jede
And
seine
everybody
Meinung sagen,
may say
und wir
their
werden uns
opinion,
damit auseinandersetzen.
and we
Das
will listen.
gehört auch zur Demokratie.
This is also part of democracy.
Meine Damen und Herren, die neue
Dear ladies and gentlemen, the new IAA Mobility is creating a bridge between tomorrow and today.
Wunderbare Passform für unsere Stadt.
And this is
Und auch
excellent
in der
for our
Politik in
city,
der Stadt muss man den
because
Bogen von
also
heute
when
ins
it
Morgen
comes to
spannen.
politics in
Wir
the
müssen
city,
an
you have to
morgen und
create a
übermorgen
bridge
denken. Wir
between
müssen
the past, the present, and the
Ökonomie,
future, and also
wie auch
the
Herr
far
Chancellor
future.
gesagt worden ist,
Ecology
in Einklang
and
bringen.
economy
Das ist unsere
have to
Aufgabe als
be
Politik. Wir
combined.
arbeiten
This is
gemeinsam
our
an einer
job as politicians.
Mobilitätswende
We are working
und
on
wir
a
haben in
change
München
in
Gott sei
mobility.
Dank viele
And
große
in
Unternehmen,
Munich, we
wir
do
haben
have large companies,
Universitäten, wir haben
universities,
Forschungsinstitute
we have
und wir haben
research,
viele Akteure vor Ort,
and we
die uns
have
dabei helfen
stakeholders who can help us with this.
werden. Meine Damen und Herren,
Dear ladies
ich
and
bin
gentlemen,
überzeugt,
I am
dass
convinced
individuelle Mobilität
that
auch in
individual
Zukunft
mobility
notwendig
will be
und
necessary
von
in the
den
future as
Menschen
well,
gewünscht sein wird.
and people will
Lasst
want it.
uns alle gemeinsam daran arbeiten,
Please, let's
dass
cooperate,
diese
all of us,
Mobilität dann auch
to make sure this
umweltverträglich
mobility
und
is
sicher
also
gestaltet
sustainable
wird. Ich wünsche der
and
Messe
fit for the future.
einen tollen
I
Dialog
wish
und viel Erfolg. Vielen Dank.
a great dialogue for this trade fair, and thank you very much.
Heißen wir nun willkommen
Now let's
den
welcome
Ministerpräsidenten
the
des Freistaates
Governor
Bayern,
of the Federal State of
Dr.
Bavaria,
Markus Söder.
Dr. Markus Söder.
Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren,
Dear ladies and
Bundeskanzlerin,
gentlemen,
liebe Hildegard Müller,
Dear Chancellor, dear
alle
Hildegard Müller,
Autofans, weil ich nehme
all
an, die
car
meisten davon
fans,
sind
because I do think that most people who are here do like cars in some way. First of all, thank you, Hildegard said it. We even have the voice of the German Bruce Willis version, so quite classy. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy that we met here today. Happy that COVID now allows us to have fairs again. I know this has been a difficult time for many, for all of us. Many are annoyed, are tired. But let me say, today shows that when you create and develop intelligent concepts, good results can come from that. And yes, it was a hard time. But dear Chancellor, let me thank you. I think we've done a good job passing this time, getting over it. And we protected this country well. And that's why we can have this fair today. Thank you for that.
Ist schon ein perfektes Match.
It's a perfect match. IAA and Bavaria. Cars coming home. Frankfurt is also a great place, but it's not really a place for cars, at least from my point of view. And I'm very happy that we're now having this in Bavaria, in Munich, because I think it just matches perfectly. We are a federal state that respects every kind of mobility, from the bicycle to all kinds of public transport. But the car is part of the Bavarian DNA. It is a great share of the turnover that we have in the Bavarian economy. It's almost 30%. It makes up for exports as well. Bavaria is the #1 in exports in Germany, and our main export is cars all over the world. And if you think of Bavaria, you think of beautiful nature, you think of successful football. Not my team, but here in Munich we have one. And we also think of economy. And then, of course, when you think of automotive industries, half of the world is driving a German car. And sometimes I wish, if the entire world respects German cars, why not have this same kind of respect and appreciation in our own country?
Auf jeden Fall war es eine gute Idee, sich dann zu entscheiden.
It still was a good idea to choose Munich and Bavaria as a location. We want to be a good host. We're happy about this. And it fits because after COVID, we're now entering a new age, but also cars are entering a new age. There was a lot of discussion, and a lot of it was defensive. And we're always reacting to everything. And in previous generations, mistakes were made. Those who worked with the automotive industry, sometimes they reacted too late, sometimes they had the wrong arguments, and sometimes they just kept too long to standard positions. But this epochal change in the economy is also affecting the automotive industry. The new leaders have a new way of thinking, a new way of talking, and also the VDA is going a new way. And so this IAA is a paradigm for this change we're seeing. It's not just the sound of cylinder. It's not about the noise a car makes. Some of you will of course like that, but it's not only about having the nicest calendar photos of cars and images with these cars. There's also a new sound when it comes to the development of mobility. And this IAA, we were included in this dialogue, is really a great opportunity. Therefore, I wish that we will all play our part. But some people just come here and are negative, and are defensive, and are skeptics. And from the onset, they don't want to see what's happening here. The change we're seeing here, I can only say to those, we have to present a statement. I will honestly say we need a strong automotive industry in Germany. It is a trendsetter for technology, and sorry, but let me say this, not everyone in Germany can take the bike at any weather. The car will remain important in this country in the future, and we will stand by this statement.
Das Auto ist ein totales Barometer.
The car is kind of a barometer for 3 developments that a modern society needs. That is hard, but in the car, these 3 come together, which is an ecological development. Climate change is here, and those who ignore it make a big mistake. And we want to play our part. We want to contribute, of course. And looking at the last 20 years, all the progress that was made, they were really made in the automotive industry as well. This also means that we cannot beat climate change with a way back into the past. If you just say, don't do anything, maybe go back into the medieval times, or maybe go back 20 years. When I tell my sons about my youth, they say this is from last millennium. But sometimes the solutions for fighting climate change sound just like that. Let me tell you, the car will and the car must and the car can contribute greatly to preventing climate change, but only through technical innovation. Humanity, over the last decades and centuries, has thrived through technology and innovation. It never through moving back into the Stone Age. We are a land of progress, of science. Engineers are bringing this country forward, and not conspiracy theorists. That's the one side. The second part, and this is a societal development, it's something about emancipation. In Munich, you can think whether the subway or the train would be a better solution than the car, but that is also quite full. I mean, not only the roads are full, but also the trains are full. We are working on it. We are trying to make it better. We are creating a new train setup station, trying to get trains to their target on time. But it's also a matter of freedom. People see freedom, not the freedom to just drive as fast as they want. I mean, even in the country of freedom, the USA, you cannot do that. And then their telematics make no sense. But there is a sense of freedom in this. And then the third aspect is digitalization. Of course, it's fascinating. When your car broke down in the past, somebody came from an organization. He was wearing a blue-collar suit, and you could smell it, what a car really is. I did a truck license at the German army, and I can tell you about it. But now you get a highly modern mechatronic expert. He's scanning the car like they did on Star Trek with a decoder. And then in the end, they're replacing a tiny chip, and a huge car keeps driving. That is a great paradigm shift in terms of technology. Digitization will be the great chance behind all this. The car will also develop differently. Who will drive will be different. How you drive, how you move inside the car. It will be a car office or a car home, not this stressful thing that is something where the children keep asking, when are we finally there? And the husband will give great advice about how to drive, even though he's not a good driver himself. This is changing with digitization. And it will also lead us to the opportunity to do even more against climate change. Because then the car may be able to tell us when is the best time to drive, when will we save the most fuel, what is the most effective way to use the car. And these chances, these opportunities are shown to us here. Also in combination with other forms of transport. The bike, public transport. Winfried, these bikes, transport bikes are also something that many people like. These are great things, but without the car, it will not work. That's the core of mobility in Germany to this day. It will possibly take decades until we can rebuild the railway system. So we have a lot ahead of us. It won't be easy. The Chancellor will tell us about the European targets. And sometimes I think that we are for a Green Deal on the European level, but we also need an economic deal, because the speed of climate protection is necessary. I think we should go faster, not slower. But we also need speed when it comes to economic development. We are in a competition with USA, China, and others. And if Europe wants to prevail, we need a strong economy. Of course, Germany as well. And therefore, the automotive industry is at the center. And I think you should take care of your center, your heart, so to speak, because if your heart stops beating, the rest won't work either. So that's why I'm happy that this IAA is happening. I'm full of pleasant expectations. I'm looking forward to the new spirit that is happening here, and you may have noticed that I like cars, and I hope that we're making use of the opportunities being presented here. Dear guests, all of you, you are here, you're in the most beautiful state of the world, in Bavaria. That's my personal point of view, of course. Everything you are looking for is here. Of course, hospitality is great. The food is just as good as the cars. Enjoy it. Enjoy your time. Make the best of your time. The IAA fits to Bavaria and the other way around. This is the place to be in Bavaria. A warm welcome for everyone. Thank you very much.
Spricht nun die Präsidentin des
Now,
Verbandes
the
der
president
Automobilindustrie,
of the VDA,
Hildegard Müller.
Hildegard Müller.
Sehr geehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin, liebe Angela
Dear
Merkel,
Chancellor, dear Angela Merkel, dear ladies and
zur
gentlemen,
neuen IAA Mobility
here at this new IAA Mobility in
begrüße ich
Munich,
Sie
I
nochmals
welcome
sehr
you
herzlich
again
hier
with
im
all my
Saal
heart,
und an den
here in
Bildschirmen.
this hall and on your screens.
Wir leben in bewegten
We live
Zeiten.
in moving
Das
times.
spüren wir
We can
alle.
all feel it.
Auch uns, die Automobilindustrie,
Many issues
beschäftigt uns.
matter to us, the automotive
Viele
industry,
Themen
as
sehr
well.
intensiv.
A lot of issues are worth talking
Vieles
about.
würde es sich lohnen, hier zu sprechen.
There are many things we could talk about.
Denken Sie an unser klares Bekenntnis
Think of
zur
our commitment to
Klimaneutralität.
climate neutrality.
In diesem Ziel sind
We
wir
all
uns
agree to
alle
this
einig.
goal.
Jetzt
Now,
geht es um die konkrete
it's
Ausgestaltung
about
des
how
Weges.
we're going to take that path.
Und wir werden sicher noch viele
And of course, there will be
Diskussionen
many discussions
besseren Wege finden.
along the way about which path to
Denken Sie
take.
an eine zentrale Lehre
Think
aus
of a
der
major
Corona-Krise.
takeaway from the COVID crisis.
Deutschland und Europa
Germany and
müssen bei der
Europe
Rohstoffverfügbarkeit
have to be
unabhängig sein.
more independent in terms of
Denken
resource
Sie
availability.
an die stillstehenden Bänder, weil Halbleiter fehlen. Auch
Of the
Protektionismus
production lines that
ist eine
have
Frage,
stopped
die
because
uns
semiconductors are missing. Also,
Wir können
protectionism
daher über die Bedeutung
is an
neuer
issue. We
Handelsabkommen
could therefore
für
talk
eine
about the
Exportnation
importance
wie
of trade
Deutschland
deals for
und
exporт
Europa
nations such as Germany or for Europe,
über einen rauer werdenden
about
internationalen
an
Wettbewerb,
intensifying international
in dem die
competition
Unternehmen sich
in
behaupten
which companies have to prevail.
Und noch viel mehr.
And I could say even a lot more about the actual transformation of the automotive industry, because this transformation is a Hercules task for all our companies, especially the suppliers, and for all the employees, and in the end, for society as a whole. Underestimating this task would be a grave mistake. The success of this transformation, of course, depends on the framework. Higher taxes, higher fees, and higher energy costs, that's the wrong way in order to harness the forces of economy. The task is great, and we can see it when we look at the charging infrastructure for e-cars, which is going slowly. We need a lot more speed in Germany, but even more so in Europe. Quick and safe charging with green energy is imperative for creating change. Green energy, of which we still have way too little, in order to reach the target of climate neutrality. This change will be highly demanding for corporations, for companies, for employers and employees, and of course also for policymakers, for other industries, and probably for the entire society. Dear ladies and gentlemen, all these topics are of special importance for our industry and beyond. But today I want to talk about something else, about something that is important for citizens as well as for us. I want to talk about opportunities, about the future of mobility. It is the key to climate neutrality. It is what moves people in both senses of the word. The topic is so important that 744 exhibitors from all over the world have come to Munich these days, In spite of all the difficulties, all the COVID-based difficulties, 32 countries are exhibiting their products here. They are convinced of this new concept, of this new location. They cherish the versatility of the IAA as a pedestal for their innovation, as a platform offering visitor experiences, and also as an important discussion panel for expert and societal discussions. The IAA Mobility is a signal of change, a signal that will glow way beyond Munich and the year 2021. A signal that is so important this year and that cannot wait for another 2 years. IAA Mobility shows the innovation force of the automotive industry. We could already see impressive world premieres on the press conferences, but it also stands for the joy of innovation in terms of other mobility areas, for the speed of startups, and for the basic research done by universities. But we don't want to remain among us. Therefore, we are leaving these grounds, these exhibition grounds. We're going outside into the public, right into the city, Mr. Reiter. Mobility of the future is moving people, and we make it experienceable for everybody here in Munich. Dear ladies and gentlemen, what will move us next? That is our motto this year. How will we get from A to B in the future? In the cities? In the countryside? What are the wishes, the needs, the concerns that people have? Citizens are not just focused on one means of transport. They are open for various means of transportation. But they want offers that work for them. They want solutions that leave them flexible, independent, efficient, and climate neutral. This leads to the various expectations when it comes to policy in terms of public transport, parking spaces, but also bikeways, or an intelligent overall system. There is not the one mobility solution. Every dialogue must look at the life realities and needs of people in urban and rural areas. Some of them really need the car. Others, especially in large cities, might not need it much or not at all. And that leads to great potential for new, fitting mobility concepts that have not been really made use of yet. Same is true for drives. There are many of them. Some of them completed, others are still in R&D. The IAA will show you especially the world of new, fascinating electromobility. And in terms of digitization, we have made great progress already. Not only in production of the cars, but also in the car itself. And artificial intelligence is offering a lot more opportunity in the future for consumers to use. Intelligent sensors lead to cars being able to look at its environment, to experience its environment. In the long term, we will have the car drive us if we don't want to steer ourselves. Autonomous driving will lead mobility into more security, more safety, more service, and more comfort. And we will make this revolution happen. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we'll shape this revolution with passion. Mobility will be safer, more efficient, and better for the environment. And we're drawing our strengths from a unique industrial core, with a creative mix from great big companies and a strong mix of middle-sized companies. Innovation strength of suppliers and producers, and young companies that have a fresh look at everything and ask, can't we do all this differently? It's those companies with their more than 800,000 employees that make our vision of a climate-neutral mobility market-ready. The IAA will give you a first look at this. More than 100 world premieres show companies are moving transformation ahead with full force. All this is testament to our commitment to climate neutrality. We stand by that, without any reservations. Dear ladies and gentlemen, on this IAA, we're breaking up industry limits. That's why I'm happy that we have more than 70 bicycle producers here. We don't only want to discuss tomorrow's mobility, we want to make sure that our guests can experience this with all the innovation we have, from the e-bike to the e-car to autonomous shuttles. The future is closer than you think. We're discussing about Hyperloop, flying taxis, and about how innovation can turn into products. And all this is happening at IAA Mobility. It is unique all over the world, and we are proud of that. And we're all connected by our joy when it comes to mobility, and we're curious about new technology. Dear guests, whether you are a startup, a middle-sized company, or a global corporation, with your innovations, you make sure that the mobility of the future can happen. I said it before, we are facing great challenges, but let me say this like this, we are facing great opportunities. And these we have to take together. Climate change is not leaving us any time. And that's why the IAA Mobility is happening at just the right time. Today we are making the decisions for tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
dear ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. Angela Merkel.
Sehr geehrte Hildegard Müller, sehr geehrter
Hildegard Müller, Mr. Dittrich, Minister President, dear Markus Söder, dear colleague from right next door, from a Bavarian perspective, dear Winfried Kretschmann, dear Andi Scheuer, my Lord Mayor Reiter, ladies and gentlemen, when you've heard Markus Söder, you wonder why the IAA has actually taken place in Frankfurt at all, because Munich seems to be the ideal host. Well, at any rate, I'm happy to be with you here today because it is indeed a first. The first fair of its kind in this new format after it has moved to Munich, but that doesn't mean only that the location is new, but the concept is also new, as has been underlined. The name of the trade fair is now IAA Mobility, and I think that is indeed a most interesting new format and also most interesting time. Thinking, the approach is also very interesting. IAA Mobility means you want to present mobility of the future in a holistic way. And this is why you not only have a huge number of digital companies present, but also bicycle producers, as has been said. And I'm very much looking forward to also seeing some of their presentations later on. Now, in the pandemic, we have seen a regular boom of the bike industry, and e-bikes have become more and more attractive even for those people who commute to their place of work every day. And it is the future of mobility is something that indeed concerns all of us, which is why it's so important that the IAA opens up to the rest of the world and is not only holding debates with its traditional customers, suppliers, and so on, but also goes into the heart of cities and debates with the general public and allows them to have a share in this discussion. So the trade show is not only present here on the exhibition grounds, but also outside in the intercity. The Marienplatz is right now a place where a dialogue with the citizens is taking place, and I hope that each and everyone is able to raise his or her voice and that people listen to one another. Well, I can say I am certainly glad that after 1.5 years of pandemic, such meetings in person are now finally possible. The many long months of the pandemic are continue to be very difficult for all of us. The virus has claimed many human lives. It still demands a lot of hardship from all of us, of patience and effort, and it has hit our economy very hard. And the German automotive industry has done a lot in order to prevent infections in your companies, on the shop floor, in offices. You implemented hygiene concepts. You made it possible for people to work at home. Your company doctors are testing, they're vaccinating, and these are crucial contributions to getting through this pandemic safely, and I thank you very much for these efforts. And after all, we're on a good track. About 65% of the people have been vaccinated at least twice. We need a few more, obviously. More than 60% have been fully vaccinated. We will also give, again, a message to the people at the federal level, but also at the Länder level, trying to enjoin people to get vaccinated. And how we get this vaccination rate up, obviously, will be crucial for getting a little bit of normality back. Today, we debated in the Bundestag an amendment to the Protection Against the Infection Act. We're not only looking at incidences rate, but we're also looking at how we avoid an overburdening of our health system. So we all have to be very careful in the autumn. I cannot tell you that the pandemic is over yet, although I would like to say that, but a lot more is possible, and this IAA is indeed a signal of hope. I think we've weathered this pandemic quite well, comparatively speaking, both as regards the impact on our health system and also on our business community, on our economy at large. And I would like, therefore, to see our economic situation picking up, our business community being successful. We know that there are a few bottlenecks here and there as regards supplies of crucial components, but well, we see now this IAA 2021 as something very new. Mobility is seen in a holistic way, but still the car obviously is the main attraction. And this year we will again see many new models presented for the first time. We will see cars of the future. The tendency very clearly is electromobility. Well, in the beginning, obviously, our German automotive industry used to be rather reluctant to fully embrace e-mobility in the past. Even 4 years ago, the German producers on the IAA almost only presented electric concept cars. 2 years ago, I already was able, when I had my guided tour, to see a few new models that were actually seen as fast, and now all producers have electric cars in their portfolio that can be used on our streets. We see this here in our trade fair, but also on our roads. In the first 7 months of this year, a little under 370,000 e-cars and plug-in hybrids were registered. That is more than sixfold what we had in 2019. We said we wanted to have 1 billion e-cars on our German roads by 2020. If we look at the fact that this summer of this year we've been able to reach that goal, we're only a little later than originally envisaged. And we obviously promoted this. We gave financial support, and also the producers promoted it. And that was an important contribution, because about 1/4 of the price is refunded to the customer. This may well be 9,000 euros per person. Ms. Müller, you're absolutely right. In order to further strengthen e-mobility, we need a sufficient charging infrastructure. You consistently point this out, and we need to get better. And this is also true for the whole of Europe, because the Germans are not only mobile here in Germany, they have to be certain that they can recharge their car, but they also want to go across the border. In our Climate Protection Program 2030, we outlined a goal of at least 1 million public charging points, and I see this building up of the charging infrastructure both as a task, as a mission for our economy, well, I asked our Minister for Transport whether the state actually built the fuel pumps also in the past, petrol stations, that is, for combustion engine cars, and he said no. So there must be also an interest of the business community to build up these charging points, because they earn, after all, money with this. Now, 7 billion euros have been provided by 2025, and 800 million euros have been provided for private charging infrastructure. That is so important because 85% of charging takes place at home. So 730,000 private charging points and support for them has already been confirmed. So we as a state need to create the necessary framework condition. It's important that all customers have free access to all of the chargers and also can pay for it in as uncomplicated a way as possible. And obviously grids are also important. Ms. Müller, you said that mobility is indeed an overarching theme of that mobility on the road towards climate neutrality is indeed an overarching theme of this trade fair, and I'm very pleased to know that you have taken this very clear stance. The transport sector can contribute a lot to climate neutrality, and how this can work is something that we can see showcased here in Munich. And I agree, 150 billion euros of investment by 2025 in e-mobility, digitalization, new drivetrains means enormous efforts for the German automotive industry. But that shows also that the automotive industry is not necessarily in and of itself only part of the problem of climate change, but it can also be crucial for coming to a solution there. Two things are most important to me in this respect. First, open-mindedness as regards the technologies applied. We must not be premature. We must not be biased in focusing only on specific technologies. We ought to tap the full potential of all promising innovations. And here, electromobility will be a crucial pillar, obviously, of climate-neutral mobility, but also other options, such as hydrogen, synthetic fuels, could be alleviating the burden on the climate. And this is particularly true for heavy transport, for air travel, and for shipping. And the second point that I'm very much interested in is obviously job security. CO2 doesn't stop at borders, at national borders. And jobs can only be maintained in one's own country if the underlying framework conditions are right. That applies, incidentally, also to the whole of Europe. Well, for the future, it will be crucial that our international competitiveness remains intact. We do not want carbon leakage. We want Germany to continue to remain an attractive and strong automotive industry location. The federal government therefore opts for a common approach in the EU. European Emissions Trading Scheme could be an important start, but it's going to take very tough discussions with a number of countries, of member countries of the EU that are not all that for it. We've already introduced that here in Germany, CO2 pricing, and we also need to remember that structural change in the automotive industry affects primarily suppliers. They are having a very hard time right now, and this is why it was so important that the Future Fund Automotive Industry serves to support through government funds small and medium-sized companies in allowing them to transition a little more smoothly to climate-friendly mobility. The shape and form of this was agreed in August at the Auto Summit. It has a fund of roughly 1 billion euros, and I would like to thank all of you at the automotive industry for considering also the interests of the suppliers and their jobs. Mobility of the future, thanks to alternative drivetrains and thanks to digitalization, will be even more climate-friendly and safer than today. Autonomous driving is developing just as rapidly as e-mobility. Germany wishes to be leading the way here too, and in July, by adopting the Act on Autonomous Driving, we created the necessary preconditions for allowing the regular operation of self-driving cars. Thus, Germany is the first country in the world in which autonomous driving of level 4 is made possible on our public roads. So we are first in putting driverless vehicles on our roads and introducing them in our everyday life. For our people, it will be obviously also important in the future to get fast and safely from A to B, particularly in rural areas. Individual mobility will continue to be the preferred choice for people. The German automotive industry has done everything in order to make individual mobility safer and cleaner. We, as federal government, would like to continue to support you in this endeavor. Only recently, on the 18th of August, during our concerted Action Mobility, and thank you for your cooperation, we had very interesting exchanges of views. There were very important players around the table, and our talks were very constructive. And I'm very pleased that IAA Mobility is also attaching great importance to this open-minded discussion, because both transformation to a climate-neutral society as also using new technologies, applying them for transport on our streets will only be possible if our citizens accept it. This trade fair shows how closely climate friendliness and innovation are linked. And when I look around, I'm deeply convinced that the transformation to climate neutrality will become a success for both our country and our automotive industry. So I wish all exhibitors, our visitors, successful and interesting days, and I declare the 69th International IAA to be open. Thank you.